Welcome to American Catechism by Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 29, as we are continuing to celebrate Columbus Day 2025. Coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas, where it is currently 89 degrees, this October 12th, 2025. Today I will talk a little bit more about Christopher Columbus and Columbus Day, and then we will review this rum, Brugal 1888 from the Dominican Republic. But first, a little bit about Christopher Columbus. Columbus has been studied and written about extensively because he opened up the Western Hemisphere to the Europeans who called it the New World. He's been celebrated for centuries, but in the past 60 years or so, his reputation has fallen on hard times. I learned about Columbus discovering America early in grade school. First or second grade, I'm sure, back in the 1960s. And there was no shame surrounding his name or accomplishments back then. But by the time I got to college in the 1970s, I realized that there was a strong movement in our country that absolutely hated him. Sadly, even in the church today, he's hated. I have personally heard Baptist elders, preachers, and pastors say that Columbus was wicked and did a terrible thing. Consequently, I started studying Columbus about 20 years ago and was amazed at what I found. So, I am continuing to celebrate Christopher Columbus and Columbus Day, thanking God for leading him to his discovery over 500 years ago. And I think that the good far outweighs the bad. Let's talk about Columbus Day. Columbus landed on the island of Guanahani in the Caribbean on October 12, 1492, thus setting into motion the movement of Europeans and Western civilization across the Atlantic Ocean into the Western Hemisphere. Many countries in the West celebrate Columbus Day as a holiday. In the USA, the first celebration of Columbus Day that I'm aware of was October 12, 1792 in New York. In Boston that year also, they raised a Columbus obelisk, which in the past 10 years today has come under fire. It's been vandalized, it's been moved, and there are strong efforts to rededicate it to somebody else, like victims of police violence. Yeah, I'm not joking. The first United States state to recognize Columbus Day as a state holiday was, surprisingly, Colorado in 1907. But sadly, Colorado has since abandoned Columbus Day and substituted it with Frances Xavier Cabrini Day. She was a Catholic nun who was the first American to become a saint in the Catholic Church. Go figure, Columbus also was Catholic. In 1934, Congress passed a law asking the president to issue a proclamation about Columbus every year. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt began doing that. And then finally in 1968, President Lyndon Johnson signed a law submitted by Congress making Columbus Day an annual federal holiday across America, and that law went into effect in 1971. And it basically says the second Monday of the month of October. So it's not always going to be on the 12th, right? In the past 40 years, though, many states have ceased celebrating Columbus Day and have switched over to something else like Indigenous Peoples Day. This is a tragedy. The Christian churches should at least promote Columbus Day as part of church history and thank God for Columbus. But they don't. Now, President Trump has issued his proclamation for the day this past week, or this weekend. So let me read that. Today, our nation honors the legendary Christopher Columbus, the original American hero, a giant of Western civilization, and one of the most gallant and visionary men to ever walk on the face of the earth. This Columbus Day, we honor his life with reverence and gratitude, and we pledge to reclaim his extraordinary legacy of faith, courage, perseverance, and virtue from the left-wing arsonists who have sought to destroy his name and dishonor his memory. Cheers to President Trump. Born in Genoa, Italy in 1451, Columbus quickly emerged as a titan of the age of exploration. On August 3, 1492, Following years of intense study, preparation, and petitioning, Christopher Columbus secured funding from the Spanish crown to set out on a daring expedition that most believed to be impossible. Commissioned by Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, Columbus and his crew boarded 3 small ships, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, to set sail on a perilous voyage across the Atlantic. He was guided by a noble mission to discover a new trade route to Asia, bring glory to Spain, and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to distant lands. Just over 2 months later, on October 12, 1492, Columbus made landfall in the modern-day Bahamas. Upon his arrival, he planted a majestic cross in a mighty act of devotion, dedicating the land to God and setting in motion America's proud birthright of faith. Though he initially believed he had arrived in Asia, his discovery opened the vast frontier and untold splendors of the New World to Europe. He later ventured onward to Cuba and other islands in the Caribbean, exploring their coasts and engaging with their people. Guided by steadfast prayer and unwavering fortitude and resolve, Columbus's journey carried thousands of years of wisdom, philosophy, reason, and culture across the Atlantic into the Americas, paving the way for the ultimate triumph of Western civilization less than 3 centuries later, on July 4, 1776. Outrageously, in recent years, Christopher Columbus has been a prime target of a vicious and merciless campaign to erase our history, slander our heroes, and attack our heritage. Before our very eyes, left-wing radicals toppled his statues, vandalized his monuments, tarnished his character, and sought to exile him from public places. Under my leadership, those days are finally over, and our nation will now abide by a simple truth. Christopher Columbus was a true American hero, and every citizen is eternally indebted to his relentless determination. Hear, hear. As we celebrate his legacy, we also acknowledge the contributions of the countless Italian Americans who, like him, have endlessly contributed to our culture and our way of life. To this day, the United States and Italy share a special bond rooted in the timeless values of faith, family, and freedom. My administration looks forward to strengthening our long and storied friendship in the years to come. This Columbus Day, more than 500 years since Columbus arrived in the New World, we follow his example, we echo his resolve, and we offer our gratitude for his life of valor and grit. Above all, we commit to restoring a nation that once again dares to tame the unknown, honors our rich cultural inheritance, and offers rightful praise to our Creator above. In commemoration of Christopher Columbus's historic voyage, the Congress, by joint resolution of April 30th, 1934, and modified in 1968 under 36 U.S.C. 107, as amended, has requested the President proclaim the second Monday of October of each year as Columbus Day. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim October 13th, 2025, as Columbus Day. I call upon the people of the United States to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities. I also direct the flag of the United States be displayed on all public buildings on the appointed day in honor of the great Christopher Columbus and all who have contributed to building our nation. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 9th day of October in the year of our Lord 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 250th. Signed, Donald J. Trump. Cheers to our president for that wonderful statement. Now, on to the rum that we're discussing. And again, I chose this rum because it comes from the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, or the island of Hispaniola, which Columbus did discover. This is an 80 proof rum that cost me just over $40 in Fort Worth, Texas for this 750 milliliter bottle. Made from molasses in a column still, distilled twice, and finished in ex-sherry casks. And the significance of the 1888 there is that that's when Brugal began business. And they started in Cuba and then they moved to Dominican Republic shortly thereafter. Tasting notes. This rum does have the classic rum flavor. Some oak, tobacco, leather, coffee, and even chocolate. Some dark sweetness from the molasses, fruity like plums, raisins, figs, and of course hints of wine because it was finished in Spanish sherry casks. I gave this rum a score of 90, a letter grade for drinkability of a solid A. My recommendation: these darker flavors remind me of some whiskeys I enjoy. I'm thinking Canadian Club 12-year or Balcones Texas Rye or Three Rangers Rye. If you like those dark oak leather coffee style whiskeys with little hints of tobacco, I think you're going to like this rum by Brugal. On to the details. History. Don Andre Brugal was a Spaniard who immigrated to Cuba in 1868 and started his distilling business in 1868, and he started his distilling business in 1888. In 1897, he moved from Cuba to the Dominican Republic and set up his distillery in Puerto Plata. This 1888 rum was released in 2011 to the United States and was the first rum released after the company was purchased by the Edrington Group. Edrington Group owns several Scotch whiskies as well as other things. But in 2025, at the World Rum Awards, this rum won gold. So that's recently. 5 out of 5 for history. Bottle, label, and marketing. Now, I am very new to rum, and so I know next to nothing, okay? So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But what I've observed in rum bottles in the stores that I've looked at is that they are deliberately different from whiskey bottles in most cases. This bottle is a little less than 3 inches at the base, but just right at 3 inches at the shoulder. So it's not straight, but it's flared just a little bit. Its basic shape reminds me of an old artillery shell from the Civil War to the World War I era. Here's the fuse. Probably about a 75 millimeter or a naval 3-inch gun. The label is mostly painted on the bottle in a very classy way there. But this part down at the bottom is applied. It's like, glued to the bottle. And the front of the label, it's all in Spanish. The website is in English, so you can find out everything there at the website. And the back label here is in English. Their website is very nice, I might add, but I really did have to dig in a lot of different places to find out how this stuff is made. So for transparency, not much. And I've not received nor found any ads for this rum, but there are several reviews out there that are pretty good. So for bottle, label, and marketing, 4 out of 5. Appearance. This rum has a nice, dark, rich color there because, it's aged, in the 12-year range, I think. I mean, it's a blend of some younger and some older, but it's got a nice dark color going on there. Here it is in the glass. Now this is a rum old-fashioned, so you're not really going to get a firm look at its color there. But really, for appearance, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 because it really is quite dark. Composition. Molasses is fermented and then it's double distilled in column stills. It is aged in ex-bourbon cask for 6 to 8 years and then aged in Spanish sherry cask for another 2 to 4 years. So, that could be 10 years, could be 12 years. And it is a product of the Dominican Republic, so 14 out of 15 for composition. On the nose. Now, I didn't pour a neat pour today, but I did yesterday when I was researching this. And so it does have the kind of a rum smell. I mean, rum smells different from whiskey, and rums tend to have a very similar smell to me. But I also got a bit of leather, oak, molasses, It was a very pleasant nose, but a little bit faint, a little bit weak, so only 8 out of 10 points there. It was all good, just a little bit faint. The taste. The taste on the neat pour is certainly true to the nose, but only better. It does have those classic rum flavors, kind of I don't know how to describe it, but rums have a certain flavor to me that they all share. And then besides that basic rum flavor, this has got oak, tobacco, leather, coffee, a little bit of chocolate, dark sweetness like molasses, fruity like plums, raisins, figs. And then there's, of course, the hints of wine because it's finished in Spanish sherry casks. Many say that this is bourbon-like. I disagree. I told you earlier that to me it tasted similar to Canadian Club 12-year or some rye that I've tasted like Three Rangers or Balcones Texas Rye, because those I get all those same leather, coffee, tobacco, chocolate notes, right? So there's no corn sweetness here at all. So that's why I'm saying it doesn't taste like a bourbon. I get the dark molasses sweetness. So this is, to me, simply delicious. I'm giving it 22 out of 25 points. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish. The mouthfeel was rich, not thin, even at 40%. Had a mild burn, but nothing going up in the sinuses, not even down the throat, let alone the chest. Tingles are focused in the mouth and a little bit in the back of the throat, maybe. I got no bad ethanol flavor that happened. The finish was lingering. The flavors of tobacco, coffee, molasses, and spices were all staying around for a while. So mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 13 of 15. Neat or mixer. This is an absolute great sipper. I love it neat. But at $40, I think it's still okay for me to spend that in a cocktail. And so yesterday I had a very simple cocktail with just ice, but my ice was frozen coconut water. Okay. And so it blended the coconut flavor with the rum, and it was really quite tasty. The ice kind of melted fast though, and did dilute it down quickly. It's only an 80 proof, so there you go. Now today I made an old fashioned, still using the coconut ice. And then for bitters, I used orange bitters and chocolate bitters. And then I've got an orange peel in there. And it makes a wonderful old fashioned. Definitely. A rum old fashioned is very good. So neat or mixer, 5 out of 5 points. Price, value, and availability. Total Wine had this for $40.99. Specs $42.99 and Goody Goody $43.59. So I think it has excellent value for the price. The flavors are there. The availability is strong. You can do it neat or as a mixer. So 10 out of 10 points for price, value, and availability. Bonus points. I gave this 5 bonus points because of the history, the bottle, the packaging, the composition, the nose, the flavor, all around. This is a keeper. So 5 out of 5 bonus points, which gives me a total score of 90. A letter grade for drinkability is a solid A. My analysis and recommendation. Again, I am relatively new to rum, and so maybe I don't know a good rum from an average rum. That's probably the case because I've enjoyed all the rums that I've had, which is not many. We're looking at maybe 5, right? Something like that. But of the ones that I've had, I'm thinking this is the best one. So, I haven't done a one-on-one competition, but this is really pretty good. So I really like this a lot. And at $40, it's still, a decent price. It's versatile. Use it as a mixer or neat. If you like the darker whiskeys that have that chocolate, tobacco, leather, oak flavors going on, then I think this rum would be good for you. Now, what's coming up next. Tomorrow is the birthday of the United States Navy, and it just kind of coincides with Columbus Day, right? And so we'll be discussing the U.S. Navy a little bit. I'm going to be reviewing a movie, a Navy World War II movie, In Harm's Way, starring John Wayne and Kirk Douglas. And we'll be sipping on Old Line. This comes out of Baltimore, Maryland. And this is an American single malt finished in Madeira wine casks. So that's coming up tomorrow. For now, this is Stab the Dragon for American Catechism, out here.